Okay. Okay, so I'm officially live covering the elections for tonight. I didn't send it to that many people, so there might not be that many people in the chat today. But really, we have a lot of elections. I wanted to get on earlier, but I was pretty busy today, so I didn't have the opportunity to. So we have a lot of elections to cover in the primary today. So we have everything from New Jersey, Iowa, California, Montana, New Mexico to South Dakota. This California governor race is going to be very key. We're going to want to see how the election results come in. So the first county we have a pretty good amount of information in is one that's looking very good for Steyer, actually, is Santa Barbara County. But these results in these other counties are not looking that good for Steyer. So he's going to need to get to the top two. Looks like the Republicans are getting a lot of votes as well. So the Republicans may have coalesced around Hilton. But these are a lot of the early votes, so expect the results to change a lot. Now, let us see what's going on in New Jersey. So New Jersey had a few different election results today. They had a Republican Senate primary. It looks like Justin Murphy has all but solidified his victory there. I don't know too much about him. I just know that he's going to be facing Cory Booker. New Jersey, while it has trended red in the past couple of years, is very much a blue state, and expect this to kind of be kind of a sacrificial lamb race for the Republican there. I mean, maybe if there's a big shift towards Republicans, it will be in play. Cory Booker is a very entrenched senator, and you can't really expect much to change out of this. Now, another thing that you should expect is, I have to send it to a few more groups. Give me a second. I am sharing my link around. Okay, and here we are. Let's see. Okay, yep. I'm bringing some people in. I'm bringing some more people in here. Okay, so New Jersey is going. Actually, wait. I do want to see because Jared is in here. I want to cover. Jared did some work for great House candidate Mai Vang. So we're gonna check how the congressional races are going in California, and I want to see if there's any results coming out of that. Oh my Lord, there's a lot of California results tonight. Yeah, we're not even going to be able to begin to cover all these races. Who I do not remember the specific, but I guess if I see Metsoy or Vang, I will know. Let's see. I really need to start memorizing districts. Okay, here it is. Holy crap! This is a big result. Get a job, please. That's pretty good. Yeah, I do have a job, thankfully. So here we have the congressional district primary. This is a progressive challenger facing off a very long-term, I think 20-year incumbent in Doris Metsoy in Sacramento. And the top two people go on to the general election. So this is going to be a really big, general election race between an incumbent that's been in power for like 20 years versus a progressive, insurgent that is challenging, the leadership of the Democratic Party. So with 26% of the vote in, that is definitely a lot to show. I honestly think this could be a lot of the early election votes, or like the um, the early voting, which tends to be older voters that vote before the date of the election. That's where California counts first. So that might actually change a lot here. And it has already changed a little bit because El Dorado came in, which seems to be a lot more Republican and a lot more leaning towards Metsoy. So not a good result for Vaughn there, but we'll see more as it goes forward. And let's see here. So the California governor race is 27% in, and you have three contenders that are going forward. You have Javier Becerra, Steve Hilton, and Tom Steyer. Javier Becerra kind of came out of nowhere as kind of the establishment of the Democrats in California following Eric Swalwell dropping out of the primary. So it is expected that he is going to do very well, and he has a pretty good chance of going forward and getting to the top two in this race. Now you have the Republican Trump-endorsed candidate, which is Steve Hilton, and he's at around 25% of the vote. Expect him to shore up a lot more votes as these rural counties come in, but as the more populated counties come in as well, the Democrats are going to kind of outpopulate that. So it really right now is looking very good for Becerra and Hilton with 31% of the votes in, but that's definitely a margin that Steyer could close the gap in. So 25% of 100. It is one quarter. That is one quarter. Now let's see some other races that are going on. Iowa had a few different races. They had a Senate primary where I believe the Trump-endorsed candidate won, Ashley Hinson. That's replacing Jody Ernst's seat in Iowa. So it's going to be an open race. One thing that's kind of key is to see how many Republicans voted and how many Democrats voted. It's a good indicator of where the enthusiasm is in both parties. And as you can see, the Republicans seem to be just edging out in Iowa, that enthusiasm gap, and expect that to kind of be a little indicative of what to expect in November, where it might be a little bit closer in Iowa than it usually would be for a general election. But with those results, I would definitely think the Republicans are favored to carry this state in the Senate, which is going to be a Democratic long shot. But the Democrats nominated Josh Turek. He's more of the moderate in the race, and the Democratic establishment largely propped up his campaign. So I think that he might be a good candidate for Iowa, but I just don't know if the Democrats will have what it takes to win this state going forward in November, at least. Now, in the gubernatorial primary, it's very different. Rob Sand is a statewide elected official in Iowa, and he's very popular, and he's actually winning in the polls to become governor. Now, this is a little different because at the state level, in state level races like governor, someone like Rob Sand is going to be much more likely to outperform a Senate candidate, as he's more of like a moderate gubernatorial candidate. So he ran uncontested because no one wanted to challenge him at all. And the Republicans had these three candidates It looks like it's going to be a dogfight between Zach Glenn and Randy Feenstra. I was really kind of expecting Randy Feenstra to take this away because he was the Trump endorsed candidate, and he's like a representative, but it doesn't look like he has it in the bag, and he's definitely not in pole position right now with 95% of the votes counted. So that would be a pretty big upset for Trump. He kind of always, like pretty much in every primary in this cycle, Trump endorsed candidates have won. So this would be a pretty big upset. Now, I do assume that Zach Glenn is probably on the more right side of the party, but I could be wrong. But it is another kind of, Iowa's a state that's been really heavily affected by tariffs, and having an agricultural upstart run and defeat a Trump endorsed candidate, that could be a sign of kind of some just things to come if agricultural industry voters are putting up a candidate against Trump's will in that instance. Now we have a few other states. Obviously, New Jersey had a lot of results that came in, and I actually have not turned off my notifications for other apps, so I do apologize for that. But let's see here. One big race was Mejia was a candidate that the Democrats nominated for a special election recently. There was some speculation a primary challenge to her could occur, but she won 80% of the vote. So Mejia's completely mopped up that district. And this 12th district was a very competitive district. It looks like the progressive, AOC and Bernie Sanders endorsed candidate. Hamawi was a emergency doctor that was a veteran that's attributed to, assisting in saving. I believe there's another Democratic senator that he may have saved her life. I'm forgetting the name, but he had an integral role in that. And he also, I think he did volunteer work in Gaza, and very much a big race for him to be performing that well in. Now, I found this election to be very interesting because it shows you how a lot of these congressional races have a lot of different interests backing different candidates and local constituencies. So as you could see in Mercer County, Hamawi won, but the second place candidate appears to be for Linda Reynolds Jackson, and the third place candidate is Sam Wong. In other areas of the district, you have this Middlesex County district. Brad Cohen got 30% of the vote here. He barely could even get 10% of the vote in other areas of the district. And I'm stuck at CD07. Oh no, that's not good. Let me I think I know what the issue is. Okay. I am going to switch the way that I'm sharing my stream. Thank you for letting me know that. Actually, that is extremely crucial. I haven't done this in a minute, so give me a second to tab instead. Okay. So yeah, no, it's very good that I have that. So I'm going to be shifting my tabs a lot, but so here is the primary here. So what I was saying was Mercer County has these three candidates for Linda Reynolds Jackson and Sam Wong following Hamawi. And then in Middlesex County, it's completely different candidates. And you see how in different regions of the district, in this one, it's kind of a large amalgamation of different areas of New Jersey. They're all voting all across the place. Like this guy got 48% of the vote here in Plainfield. I'm sure he represents somewhere in Plainfield, but he's not even getting 5% of the vote in Middlesex County. So, it's just an interesting dynamic. And the person who was able to win was obviously the person that kind of did have that cross appeal all across the district. Was able to spend the right amount of advertisement money. He seemed to really carry through, and there lacked a unified opposition to him, so he was able to win this primary. That was the biggest election out of New Jersey. Now I'm going to jump over the Iowa because I did talk about it, just so I can show the maps to everyone that was watching. And please, if there are any difficulties with my stream, let me know so that I'm not stuck on a different congressional district for 20 minutes again. Yeah, so here, Ashley Hinson defeated Jim Carlin. That was expected. And Turek beat Zach Walz. Turek is more of a moderate Democrat. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be, it definitely won't be a coronation for the Republicans, but I think it's going to be a really hard fight for the Democrats to win that race. But anything could happen between now and November. Now, the governor race, I think it's going to be really hard for the Republicans to defeat the Democrat here, because Rob Sand he's kind of one of one when it comes to the state of Iowa. He's the state auditor. He has kind of a large amount of popularity, and he's running in a very favorable year to Democrats, where they're in the opposition party, and he's running for governor, where governor races are much more likely to be competitive in states that aren't particularly competitive, like Iowa. And Rob Sand, definitely expect him to be a good candidate against Zach Lan, who was not endorsed by Trump, that I was emphasizing earlier. And it looks like he did pretty well throughout the state. So this is definitely one of the first indications I've seen of a Trump endorsed candidate failing to win a very big primary. And as you see, these votes keep trickling in, none of which are really going favorably to Feenstra. So let's look at Montana right now. And I'm going to jump to this tab. So it looks like for the Senate primary, Kurt Alma has mopped up the most votes to go forward. And in the Democratic nomination, Bankhead, I believe, is a candidate that is planning to drop out and endorse an independent candidate, so there will be no Democrat. That's kind of an interesting dynamic, because Montana is much more likely to elect independent candidate than a Democrat. And using the strategy of running a campaign just to end your campaign in the general and nominate someone who might be more independently minded, it's going to be it's going to be probably in the party's interest to do so, because Montana is, for all intents and purposes, a red state, and they have a much better chance getting someone not a Republican, that's more of a moderate independent leading independent, for lack of a better word. And that guy is going to be Seth Bodnar, who's a University of Montana president, or he was. Now, actually, Montana does have 2 districts now. So you can see here, it looks like, oh, that's a great name. It's a very close race between Ryan Bussey and Sam Forstock. So that's going to be interesting. It looks like Bussey has the leading position there. And then it looks like Brian Miller defeated Sam Lux in District 2. But I don't know. I mean, both of these, I'm not a Montana expert, and I never would pretend to be. But I would say both of these districts are going to be Republican leaning. There's a small chance they get a Democrat in one of them, but I don't think either of them will be that competitive. Yes, very disappointed in the people of El Dorado County. Well, I will say that's 60% of the vote, and a lot of the election day vote could change. And really all Vong needs to do here is get to the second round, because I honestly think Vong could probably get some outside party support, but you never know. You really never know. A lot of Republicans could just say, Matt Soy is more moderate, but a lot of Republicans also might hate the fact that she's 80 years old and want to replace her with someone new. Or a lot of Republicans might stay home. So there's really no way to tell how the general will go with those two going forward. But definitely with these rurals coming in, San Joaquin, I would assume, is less Republican. So, but I could be wrong. Jared would probably be better to make that guess. I think San Joaquin would be a little bit less. Oh no! Oh shit! I do need to remember to change my tab. But I do have El Dorado up here. So with 60% of the votes, and like I said earlier, expect probably Vong to do better with the election day votes that get counted later in California. But with 60% of the votes in El Dorado, that is a pretty poor performance for Vong. But I do think she'll probably do better in San Joaquin. And then I think the late ballots in Sacramento County will probably be better for Vong as well. So let's jump to the California governor race, because I have not seen it in a few minutes. Wow, with 38% of the votes in now. Hilton has taken, or I think he might have, he wasn't in the lead earlier. So he's around 26%. A lot of the rurals are coming in pretty heavy. I mean, 53% of the vote out here. Shasta County, 36% in. And one thing that's pretty interesting is really these. I mean, this is not going to matter at all between Becerra and Steyer. Almost all of the votes are going to be in cities throughout California. But Hilton has a significant chance he might not make it to the final round. So that would be really. Oh, Tom Steyer doesn't have a chance. No. So this is something that you should expect here. So this could be wrong, but in the state of California, they count ballots in the order they were received. So a lot of early votes were much more Republican leaning, and they tended to be older voters who theoretically were more likely to back Becerra. So a lot of the election day votes that came in with the high turnout in Los Angeles County, the high turnout in the Bay Area, I would expect Steyer to do better with those batches of ballots. And you're going to see a lot of these counties flip. That is my prediction. I could be wrong. But as they start to count election day ballots, it's going to be more Democratic leaning. And I think Steyer definitely has a chance, but we will have to wait. And it might take, with the way that the California Secretary of State counts ballots, it could take like 2 weeks. And, the Secretary of State was on the ballot today. Usually I try to keep these analysis very unbiased, but I voted for the Green Party over her, to be completely honest. And I'm not like a Green Party guy or anything like that, but I just do not think the California Secretary of State does a good job. And I think that she kind of downplays the importance of counting ballots on Election Day. Of course, that is a big problem. And it takes them days to count, weeks to count in California. And I just think, California has a lot of people, but if you are the Secretary of State, it should be your goal to get all of the ballots counted within at least 2 days. And ideally, 1 day, you should know the results of the election. I mean, Iowa, for what it's worth, much smaller, much more rural state. All the votes are in. You know who's going to win. You have this extremely close race, but even with a 2,000 vote splitting option, they already have the vote in. Share Iowa right now just to show you. So 95% of the vote in, and you have this hair splitting race, but I can guarantee you that Zach Lan won because they're not going to get 2,000 ballots to go to Feenstra. And what I was saying earlier, this is a really big race because Trump endorsed Feenstra, and this random farmer who came out of nowhere beat him. So we'll probably, this isn't the end of Zach Lon, I assume, but either way, I really think Rob Sand's going to end up winning in Iowa, so it might not matter. Now, I want to just look at New Mexico because I haven't looked at it yet. So incumbent Senator Ray Lujan, definitely expected him to win, and it looks like he did. And then, yeah, I don't expect this to be a competitive election at all. The Republicans didn't even nominate someone, so they had to do a primary. They had to do a primary, and the write-in primary, and it looks like he did get enough votes to probably get nominated as a write-in candidate. But I mean, yeah, he's not going to win. And then in the gubernatorial primary, former representative and former Interior Secretary Deb Haaland won that race. So looks like she will have very little issue in becoming the governor. And I don't know anything about lieutenant governor candidates, but that won't be that interesting of an election either. Now, let's jump to the great state of South Dakota, where incumbent Senator Mike Rounds is facing a big primary challenge, and he did not lose. So Matt Dodson needs to call Saul. He probably does. So Mike Rounds, a lot of these, entrenched Republican senators are facing, a new Tea Party. Like we just saw Cassidy lose in Louisiana, and we just saw John Cornyn lose in Texas. And these are like long stay establishment Republican senators. Mike Rounds is kind of in that section, but there wasn't as much spending to get rid of him. And a lot of Republicans are, facing these primary challenges in the Senate, particularly because Republican voters are pushing to get rid of the filibuster so that Trump can pass the SAVE Act, which would radically change how voting law works all throughout the country. Now, it's pretty clear, I think a lot of Republican senators don't want this bill for a variety of reasons, but the Republican base is really in favor of it. And the Republican Senate doesn't, like the senators, especially the Senate establishment, does not want to get rid of the filibuster because they're afraid that that precedent would cause the Democrats to also get rid of the filibuster if they get power in the future. And the filibuster tends to benefit rural states and the interest of, Republican states in general. So while a lot of, Republicans may be embracing getting rid of the filibuster, it may end up being a bad thing going forward. And now, California has a lot of House races that I want to look at. So I have not looked at the San Francisco House race yet, but I'm going to look at it now to see it's the 11th district. I don't know if they have any ballots in. Oh, they do not have any ballots in. This is something I do really want to look into. You have Scott Wiener, who's kind of the establishment favorite, but Pelosi endorsed Connie Chan, who's kind of like a member of the Board of Supervisors, kind of more progressive Democrat, and Shaukat Chakrabarti, who is a progressive Democrat as well. Now, a lot of progressives in San Francisco are mad at Choikot because he funded a primary challenge against a supervisor named Dean Preston and a few others. So he could actually end up losing based on internal progressive disputes. But really, this is going to be a race between either Scott Wiener or Channer Chakrabarty going forward in the general election, where in California you have a 2-round system. Oh, and I'll jump over to the tab that I was sharing. Here we are. So this is actually horrible results for Shoykot. I did not expect it to be this bad, but this is kind of the dynamic where I think a lot of election day votes are going to shift a little bit. So that could benefit Shoykot, but I think this is a little bit of too much of a gap for him to take, even if election day votes are radically different. And wow, I mean, I'm actually genuinely surprised at that one. We could see some changes, but I think for all the money that Shoykot spent, he's really hurting with that result right there. That's actually kind of surprising to me how bad he's performing right now. I do think he's going to get a little bit closer as election day votes come in, but man, I don't think he's gonna get through that big of a gap. Let's jump to some other California House races. Let's see. This is a key race between Ken Calvert and Young Kim, 2 Republicans that kind of got thrown into the same district. This is a pretty bad result for Young Kim because the Democrat might end up actually seeping into their vote bank district. But I expect Young Kim to make it to the next round. And then, it's a pretty good result for Ken Calvert right now. But I do think this is kind of proof of how a lot of the late ballots are going to heavily change what the election is looking like right now. So as you can see, Steyer is a little bit of a distant third with 46% of the votes in, but a lot of the election day votes are going to start rolling in, and it's going to heavily change what is the end result here. Then if anyone wants to see what's going on here. Anyone have any specific information they want to see? I do think the House races are pretty key. I think, let me see if there's a House race map, actually. Key races here. Los Angeles mayor, that's a big one. So this also I would expect to change pretty heavily with the election results coming in. You have Bass, who is kind of the incumbent that is not does not have high approval, and then you have Pratt, who's a Republican, and then you have Nitya Raman, who is kind of a progressive challenger to Bass, and that's not a good result for Raman. I do expect it to start closing in going forward, but yeah. You're seeing the 40th congressional district right now? Oh, yeah, I don't know why it didn't switch over. Let me see. I think I'm gonna, give me a second. I'm gonna change it up. I'm gonna share my screen instead of a tab. That's how I traditionally did it. So this is the Los Angeles mayor result. Now, like I said, this is the hard part about California is the votes are going to radically change. We don't know by how much, but a lot of younger voters tend to vote in person and on election day. And that's going to be a different demographic than the people who mail in their ballots or turn them in early or vote early for that matter. So right now it's looking like a race between Hilton and Becerra, but Tom Steyer is probably going to catch up to that. And we have a few other races we want to look into. Now, the 11th district number is pretty crazy. As of right now. Pretty abysmal performance for Scheuchert, unless, election day changes. But I don't think he's going to be able to come back with 40% of the vote in. Now, there's a few other elections that happen. Looks like Fiona Ma is winning in the lieutenant governor race. One of kind of the examples of what I'm saying about how much the vote is going to shift. So this is a 54-40 electorate, Democrat to Republican. California, as we know, is more of like a 65-35 towards 68-32. So a lot of these ballots could change. I could even see Steyer overtaking Hilton, depending on where a lot of those last votes are. But Steyer could also overtake Becerra, but we'll have to wait and see probably in the next week as they continue to count these ballots, knowing California. Now, does anyone have any specific races they want me to look at? I can look at the, let's see another one here. I want to find the California House races, just a House race map right now. I don't want to just look at the key races. Let's see. I wish New York Times had like a House race map. So this is a redrawn district. The incumbent Republican changed himself to be an independent, and this is probably going to be a Democratic district. But the Republicans were really irritated that the incumbent changed to be an independent. And as you can see, the Republicans nominated a different candidate, but it doesn't look like he's going to have the juice to win it or get to the second round, as more Democratic votes will come in. A lot of Democrats in California did hold their ballots to the very end. So that's another reason why, because they count the ballots from start to finish. So that is one of the major reasons why it shifts so much. And the main cause of that was a lot of Democrats were waiting on polling for the governor race or trying to decide between the candidates in that time, whereas Republicans were pretty decided between Hilton and Bianco, and they were proud to vote early to get him onto the ballot. Let's jump back. Iowa, we already covered a little bit. New Mexico, we already covered. South Dakota. Anyone have any specific races? There's plenty that are interesting coming in. So really, as we get the totality of votes in from this 12th district in New Jersey, Hamawi really, took the race away. This is a progressive Democrat in a very contested primary, and was able to win by 12% of the vote. It's a big win for progressives in that area. Now let's see. Yeah, I don't really care too much about the Montana races right now. Let's check back in. So just with the 1% drop, Steyer did gain a little bit. So we're starting to see, as more votes come in, different communities are changing the election results. Humboldt County going for Steyer. That definitely looks like it. Now, let's see. For some reason, they're not. I might have to switch to a different website. Usually, the New York Times has really good coverage, but not as much right now. Oh, you care about the local elections. I could look at what the results are for, what was that, District 10 in the state Senate? No, he's not winning. He's not winning. But that could change. It looks like the Sakakihara is winning at this time, but that could change over time. You never really know. Like, this is a lot of the early vote and early. There's two types of early votes, and it's the absentee ballots that people send in or drop off, and then in-person early voting. And Republicans tend to do that a little bit more than Democrats do, and older voters tend to do that. So that could heavily impact what a lot of these election results are. And I'll probably keep having to say that throughout the night. One thing is, it is kind of surprising how little of the votes have come in. Most Californians vote by mail, and ballots postmarked on or before Election Day have 1 week to arrive. Oh, man, just such a horrible electoral system, in my opinion. You got to have election results the day of the election. And I understand voting by mail, but it should be encouraged that you turn them in earlier. But, oh, man, a lot of people vote late, and it's going to take like a week for all of their ballots to get counted. Whereas other states, New Mexico, already 80% in, South Dakota 65, Montana 51%. This is kind of like, and obviously, like, there isn't any fraud or anything like that. It's not like a fraudulent system. It's kind of like a pathetic system that you don't get to know the results within the next couple of days of the election. And it's very frustrating to see. I mean, this is like, everyone going home tonight is going to think, oh, it's going to be Hilton versus Becerra. But this is only 47% of the votes. And a lot of the changes that are going to occur are going to make it more like Tom Steyer is going to close in on these two. Now, no guarantee that he eclipses either of them, but this is a very poor very poor representation of what could be. I mean, it's going to be a much closer race going forward. Same thing with, all these congressional races. Now, I do think Shrikant is cooked. I just can't see him catching up 15% with 40% of the ballots in right now. I think he got a lot of young voters, but I think he really heavily pissed off a lot of the older progressives in San Francisco because he kind of got rid of being president. So I think that's going to ultimately lead Connie Chan to be the progressive option as opposed to Weiner. The other thing that's kind of interesting, Pelosi endorsed Chan, and Adam Schiff endorsed Chan. So she had a lot of establishment support from politicians, but a lot of the more, Democratic establishment leaning voters went heavy with Weiner. And I think he just has a big name brand in the city. He isn't really known as being a firebrand progressive, but his main issue is housing, and San Francisco definitely is lacking its, housing and the issues there. Okay, I'm going to jump around to some of the congressional races because not too much is going on there. So I'm trying to look in here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit because it's hard to see for a lot of people in the stream. So here we are. Okay. So this is actually my congressional district. I expected incumbent Mullen to really wipe the floor with everybody. Same thing with Kana and a lot of these incumbents that are really well known. With 43% of the vote in, Metsoy is being followed by Vang. So expect them to go together to the general. This independent Kili, he's probably going to face Pan in the general. Let's see if there's anything else. One thing that is very frustrating about this is that Ed Villegas is the more progressive, so that's interesting. And then, one of the things that's interesting about this is it's kind of frustrating, I'd actually say. We really have no idea what the result is going to be until about 3 to 4 days from now, if not longer, with how little is being counted right now. I mean, this is kind of an example of that. I mean, the Democrats down 4% in this district, but it's very likely they're going to carry it going forward. This is another big one. Gonzalez Torres is a progressive challenger to Gomez. She has 24%. He has 48%. This is definitely fine to go to the general, but she's going to need to get a lot more votes in order to really challenge him and overtake him. Min is protected in his primary. Levin is protected. Wow, yeah. I forget what district Kampanajar ran in. But I don't know where he is, actually. Let me see. That was another one. That was District 48. He's kind of like a perennial candidate in a way. I think a lot of the old vote. So this could be another dynamic where the old vote goes to someone like Marnie Van Wilpert. But as the youth vote comes in, it might shift more to Kampanajar. But man, this would be a pretty abysmal showing for Kampanajar as someone who was, regularly running against the Republicans in the past. So we'll have to wait for election day ballots to come in. probably another 2 weeks, but that's a pretty poor showing for him, just as it was a pretty poor showing for Shoykot. Now I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Man, as much as I want to talk, just with how few votes have been counted, man, the state of California does really irritate me with how few votes they count in election day. Because all the election sites know that this is actually a much closer race going forward, but just if you were a layperson looking at the election, you'd think this is a lock-in. Just very, very frustrating. And that'll be the theme of pretty much all the coverage tonight, because all these other states have their stuff in, but the unopposed Secretary of State in California presided over this election, and it's just a complete tragedy in terms of how many votes they've counted so far. Any specific races someone wants me to look into, I can kind of jump around more. I mean, I only really focused on this one in New Jersey, which looks like Hemingway really carried. Let's look at some more results in New Jersey if anything interesting happened. I mean, Justin Murphy won his Senate primary against Cory Booker. Second district, Moloch is going to be facing Jeff Van Drew. McGuire is going to be facing Conaway. Looks like Peace is going to be facing Smith. Gottheimer ran uncontested. Malone is he beat his primary challenger. Bennett defeated Shah, who was another person in her primary. Let's see. Definitely, I think Keene is the Republican in this district, Thomas Keene Jr. He last voted on March 5th, and he's been on a hiatus for like 3 months with no explanation. But he won uncontested, so we really don't know what's going on. That could be one of the first districts the Democrats flip in November, just based on that peculiar situation. Nothing really interesting other than that in the state of New Jersey. So I'm just going to close that tab for now. Montana, I will return to. Looks like Busey, I don't know how to pronounce his name, is going to be in the first district. He's going to be facing off Aaron Flint. It's a crazy name for a Montana representative, but pretty on point. Surprisingly, this could be a pretty competitive election. As you can see, 51,000 votes for the Republican, 45 for the Democrat. And Sam Forstag is a progressive candidate, and the more establishment candidate is Busey. But really, it's going to be hard to tell who would be a more capable candidate to win in the state. I would say the biggest takeaway from Iowa right now is definitely that the Trump-endorsed gubernatorial candidate the non-Trump-endorsed gubernatorial candidate defeated Randy Feenstra, who's a representative and a Trump-endorsed candidate. This is like political career ending. I mean, you get the endorsement of the president, you're a well-esteemed representative in your state, and you lose to a farmer that you outspent. I mean, let's do a little bit of a profile on Zach Land, because I kind of want to understand what his ideology is. I I would assume that he is still pretty conservative. Let us see. I mean, yeah, he's running heavy on the farm there. Let's see if he has a political agenda here. Low taxes, clean water, healthy kids, safe communities, and excellent schools. Honestly, it kind of looks like he's running more as a moderate. But then again, he's also, really jumping around here. Running on cancer, which is actually a very big issue in Iowa, so that isn't that surprising. Family farm, he's going against foreign ownership, antitrust action. So actually, I honestly think, obviously, for what it's worth, a lot of the Republican agenda has been, just put a picture of you with President Trump, and that's going to carry you to the primary, completely just stand with Trump's policies, hook, line, and sinker. And this is a really surprising example where that didn't really work. I mean, for what it's worth, you can agree with him or disagree with him. It does kind of seem like he ran on his own policies, and he ran on a lot of local issues, which is it's pretty interesting. I still expect him to get defeated by Rob Sand, but that is a massive political upset in the state of Iowa. And it might actually bode well for Republicans, because this is kind of a candidate that is running on his own agenda, and he might actually be able to challenge Sand a little bit better than Feenstra, who's kind of seen more as like a Trump sycophant, for lack of a better term. Yeah, nothing really interesting in New Mexico. All the incumbents are probably expected to win there, and I don't really know too much about their local politics, but definitely don't expect too much to change. So there were a few more votes that got counted in California, but I honestly kind of it's honestly kind of depressing to see how little has been counted in California at this point. And I've said it before, and I'll probably end up saying it again. But we really just won't know the result. I was kind of, hoping to get like a lot of the results in within like an hour or two, or at least like enough. But I always forget how long it takes for the state of California to vote. And it took 10 days before 95% of the vote was counted in 2024. And I mean, I would expect, places like Twitter, there's going to be a lot of talk about how the Secretary of State is failing, the state of California in delivering these, very slow vote counts. But unfortunately, it's not a conversation in California, because she just is cruising to re-election without a single Democratic challenger. Only a Green Party challenger and a Republican challenger. Now let's jump to the LA mayor race. That was a really big let me see here where it is. Yeah, no changes from the original results. So, I mean, I do kind of want to wait a little bit before ending the stream, but I honestly don't want to just sit here and wait for California to count for 10 days, which is pretty sad. I do expect the results to change pretty drastically, but it's way too early to count them like that. let me jump to the 7th district in Sacramento. I mean, this hasn't changed since I started streaming an hour ago. And oh, I guess a small amount of San Joaquin has come in. But yeah, this is all, these are the Republican constituencies within the district. The Democratic constituencies are still being counted. And yeah, I expect Maivong probably to, even overtake, and at least in Sacramento County, as the, further results come in. I do want to check Twitter briefly to see how people are reacting. A lot of people are mad that Becerra is performing so well. While San Francisco went to Steyer. A lot of the people think that Steyer's cooked. I think a lot of people on Twitter completely they just are not recognizing that a lot of the ballots still need to be counted, and it's going to change. I really don't know why people are so convinced that the election's over right now. I mean, I think Shoykot is cooked, unless there's like some huge irregularities with the last 60% there. But every other race, like I definitely think Maivong is gonna, challenge Matsoy pretty effectively. But 44% of all early ballots returned in San Francisco are 65 and older. And voters aged 18 to 34, much more likely to vote in person. But I also think the big problem here for like Democrats is that it's for the more progressive leaning Democrats was that young people did not turn out, and the older voters did. I mean, that definitely was Chakrabarty's case. But I don't know. I genuinely think that a lot of people are going to be surprised by the early votes that are coming in, or not the election day votes. Maybe I'm wrong, but I genuinely do think the vote counts will change. I don't think it's over for Becerra or for Steyer by any means at this point. It might be over for Ramen in LA, but we really will have to wait. I mean, 50% of the votes are still going to come in. Anyone have any specific questions here? a lot of the you know, the commentators here really, I mean, maybe people I don't know. I genuinely do think that the results will change over time, but maybe I'm wrong on that. I'm not 100% certain. If the results continue to show how this is if like this is the final result, all throughout the state, and like the remaining 50 matches, I would say this is definitely kind of an abysmal showing by young voters specifically, um where like the candidates that young voter were appealing and trying to run on, the youth vote, got completely defeated by candidates that were running on getting 60 plus voters. And it I would say the result of that is kind of apathy of the youth is definitely leading to them completely being like um neglected politically. And it's if that's that could be the case in California, that could be the case in in a lot of other places in the country, but I would say definitely California specifically. But I definitely don't think that all of the results that are showing right now are the final results of the race. I think it'll definitely crater in a little bit as more young voters do come in. But I will say, as of right now, it's going to take 10 days for these races to come in, and you're going to see a lot of kind of same day takes. But the lack of patience on these takes is definitely going to cause like people to like think that the results were like, well, like worse for progressives or like worse for young voters in general. But even if Steyer lost, I definitely think he at least gets like 22%. And then I mean shortcut, I definitely think he got defeated, but he had like a death by 1,000 cuts, in my opinion. But I think my Vong is still going to advance, and I think Gonzalez is still going to advance in her race. So really, it really could. It can't be like, it isn't like the worst possible for California, but ultimately, I do think there's a problem of apathy of young voters, and this apathy is going to be the detriment of them if they continue to fail to if they continue to fail to turn out, because they're going to continue losing elections on policies like housing. They're going to continue losing elections for to politicians that don't have their interests at heart, and it's going to end up really hurting them. In New York, definitely, you had Mamdani, which won based on the backs of the youth vote in one of the first elections where the youth vote really turned out en masse, in both the primary and in the general election for New York City. But I mean, if you see, in California, Steyer didn't seem to have the juice with young voters, and he's getting the majority or like the plurality of youth vote, but he wasn't winning them by the margins they needed to be, and he very clearly wasn't turning them out. I mean, he spent over $100 million on ads, and when you spend all this money on ads all throughout the state, I I mean, I guess I'm not, watching any TV really, but I didn't really see too many of his ads. I didn't really get much of his texts. And I don't know if they're reaching the youth where they need to be reached. Um, and there's plenty of people who just didn't turn out. They didn't even know there was election today, and they're essentially just defacting on their grandparents to decide the election for them. And I think that's definitely to their detriment. The lack of youth turnout, the lack of youth support for candidates, and it's gonna make candidates rely on the youth vote less, because they're gonna see them as you know a fair weather voting block, and that's not gonna be something you want to appeal on or rely on in order to win an election. But ultimately, I think that we'll have to wait and see how much is still left to be counted. Now, why does it take so long? Uh, it says it right here. Most Californians vote by mail, and ballots postmarked on or before election day have 1 week to arrive. So if you waited till election day to turn in your ballot, uh, it takes like 3 or 4 days in the mail for it to even get to the processing center. And if say you turned in your ballot yesterday, you're not even going to see the result of your ballot until 3 or 4 days. Youth voters are notorious to waiting until the last day to vote, and that could affect the results a little bit. And Democratic voters in general are more likely to wait to vote, particularly in a contested primary like this, where a lot of them were undecided. Um, but yeah, I mean, it took 10 days before 95% of the results were reported in 2024 primary. I mean, if I definitely didn't vote for the Secretary of State, but just with how that result is, I mean, the Secretary of State is completely failing California. They should change the electoral law to make it so that people have to vote earlier, or like so that you can, I don't know, like, I mean, maybe make it so people can turn them in, or like collect ballots out of ballot boxes faster. I mean, I genuinely don't even know, but every other state has like a little bit of a different system that seems to work in terms of ballot counting, and California just does not. And I don't know, people should get their results election night. With that, honestly, I don't think I really have much more to say tonight, at least, because I don't think that we have the full picture of any of these races, and a lot of the takes you're going to see are kind of like um, a lot of the takes you're going to see are kind of like dooming for progressives, but I think it's going to be a little bit better for them. I think it was still a bad night for progressives. Definitely think that's the case. But I do think that they had a first big win in New Jersey, and in Iowa, the more moderate Senate candidate won, but that was kind of to be expected. But in California, it seems like we really just don't know the full picture of how bad it was for progressives, or how good it was for moderate Democrats, or how good it was for Republicans. Obviously, with the current results, I would say it looks pretty good for Republicans, but I would say um, like going forward, it's going to be probably a little bit better for the progressive wings. Was hoping Rahman would finish second, Pratt third. I mean, honestly, you know, a lot of people probably underestimated Pratt, but Pratt had a lot of like, you know, Republican backing all throughout the country because they really think, you know, they can get Bass out because after the LA fires, you know, Bass is a pretty big target in the media and she really didn't have the greatest response to it. She had cut the fire department budget before the fire happened, largely because she ran against a really anti-government spending guy before Caruso. I think it was like Rick Caruso, who was an independent / Republican type candidate. Pratt is also kind of in that base, but you know the more progressive wing. I mean, in Rahman, I definitely think Rahman is going to grow a little bit from there, but Rahman lacked a lot of the, you know, just the name recognition and turnout increasing power that a candidate like Mamdani was able to campaign on in New York. And I think it's going to get closer. I think maybe she gets 25, maybe she gets 26% of the vote when all is said and done. I don't know if that's going to be enough. I think Pratt will probably get 27%, maybe, as more Democratic votes come in. But really, if I mean, it's really impossible to tell how well it's going to be. That's why I also think like a lot of, you know, if you look at Twitter right now, or if you look at like a lot of oh yeah, I don't think they would even have enough votes to have a Democratic lockout. Like Bianco, he had a coalition, but he did not have enough to lock out Dems. So we just did get a ballot drop. It's showing an increase for Rahman and a decrease for Pratt. I mean, that's kind of what we should kind of expect to see going forward. But you know, the other thing is like this is really bad for optics because, you know, yeah, if Democrats are known to vote late in California, we know this, but like, you know, it makes it kind of look like there is like some level of fraud if you didn't know anything about how these things work and how ballots are coming. And if you're a Secretary of State, it should be your goal to make, you know, count ballots quickly as possible, deliberately, so that like that isn't something that you know, people could get the, yeah, you know, make the narrative of. And they're, I don't know, definitely the biggest loser of the night is the California Secretary of State, even though she ran unopposed pretty much and won her primary. Yeah, we can actually, you know, look at how she did. Let's see right now. Oh, I don't even know if they're posting it here. Here's the governor. Here's the lieutenant governor. Let's see. Long Beach mayor. Yeah, that's really important. Other races: U.S. House, Board of Equalization, sheriff. Man, I don't even know if they. Okay, Secretary of State. Yeah, she got 56% of the vote. I mean, and probably 60% once you know, all the remaining ballots get counted. It's going to be a pretty significant shift, I'd say. Like Wagner is probably going to be at like 35%, and then she's going to be at 6%. And it's like, you know, the people are voting for this result. I mean, I wish people could associate secretaries of state with how long it takes to count ballots and how different it's going to be, but apparently they won't. But hopefully, whoever the new governor is gets on her to make elections a little bit better, or all the new people that are getting elected to state legislature make this an issue, because like we shouldn't have to wait a week to know who our candidates are going to be. Because I mean, I can already hear people claiming that there's like fraud or like that LA is a corrupt city if we wait 7 days from now and Raman somehow comes out from she was only at 20% and then now she's at 26% and beats out Spencer Pratt for the second round, eliminating Republicans. I mean, that is going to be just a complete narrative for Republicans to run on, and this is like an own goal for Democrats because Democrats, like, obviously it goes without saying, it isn't fraudulent. I mean, people vote. People are voting. It just happens that the people turning in ballots later are Democrats in this case. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I do think that the primaries in Michigan are held better. Michigan usually has its results, if not in 2 or 3 days, it has all of its, if not election night, it has it ready within 2 or 3 days. Even in like a presidential election, I think it took Michigan like 3 days to count its ballots in 2020, and that was kind of bad enough because it's a swing state, and it was showing Republican in 2020 until the second or third day where ballots from Detroit actually came in. People voted. It wasn't fraud, but the ballots hadn't been counted yet, and then they start getting counted, and then the Democrats in the lead, and then Republicans think, it's fraud. They're stealing it from us just because the way ballots are getting counted. I mean, honestly, it would be better if you don't release any results than you release these, half true results. I mean, 47% in, it's been an hour and a half, and it's like half the results come in. It's better if they trickle, if they trickle 1% at a time here and there. Don't just post every single, I don't know. I could go on this for a lot, but the demographics of I don't know why this is as much the case, but the demographics of how people vote varies heavily. So, like, the type of person that goes into a ballot, like, and votes for early voting is very different than the type of person who mails in a ballot, and it's very different than the type of person who comes in on election day and votes in on election day. And when that is the case, if you have an electoral system that essentially doesn't count all the ballots that get mailed in on the last day, you have this problem where half the ballots aren't counted on election night. The Rajon California map paid off a little. I mean, it did, but gerrymandering is always going to pay off for any party that does it, unless you draw the districts so brazenly that it backfires and you lose all your safe districts. Gerrymandering is always going to benefit the party that gerrymanders, unless they're super unpopular. Even in Texas, if they don't win all the districts they gerrymandered, they're still going to get a net of 2 or 3 seats instead of the 5 they were shooting for. In California, I would expect they get like 4 or 5 seats. But I mean, the big thing of the night is just that we're stuck at this 50% of the vote. We really don't know what the final result's going to be, and I can wait here another 2 hours. I guarantee you, it's not going to be that indicative of what the final results are going to be. But yeah, I would definitely say anything. This electoral system is the biggest own goal for Dems ever, because it just creates arguments for Republicans, and I think anyone that is even interested in following elections is going to say that, because like a lot of these, honestly, there's a significant chance And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there's a chance that Steyer still makes it to the second round. But no one is going to think he's going to be able to do it now. I mean, I can check the betting odds right now. Like, let's see. I'll just check Polymarket. And I guarantee you, yeah, look, Steyer's 20% chance. I would go on a whim and say, while I would say that while I don't think it's a 20%, I would say he has more like a 35% chance that he gets to the second round here. And but people are not betting on that. They're betting on this idea that, oh wow, this site's really twitchy. A restricted region, that's why. Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't bet on Polymarket. I created an account on it just so I could look at markets and stuff like that. But it's like I really don't want to keep looking at switchiness. But so yeah, it's like 19% in California. The idea that Steyer is completely cooked, I don't agree with it, because there's still 50% of the ballots out, and it's going to be mainly youth voters that just turn in their ballots last minute. I don't really know how much it's going to change, but I would say he's at least going to get to 21%. He could get to 22%. And with that shifting amount, Becerra could get down to 23, or Hilton could get down to 2024. And it's going to be a lot closer. So, everyone's going to have these election night takes and think, oh, Dems are cooked, or progressive Dems are cooked, and moderates are, winning. And that's going to be how every other election is going to go. But I honestly just think that it was just how early votes are counted. Now, the opposite of that is true for Shoykot. I think Shoykot's 100% cooked. That is like, he had an abysmal performance for all the money he spent in that race. And, San Francisco is a wild city of politics. And, the way that he lost was pretty crazy. But I definitely think, let's see. Now we can show like votes left in, like, here in Sacramento County. The remaining votes is like 93,000 votes. And in the rest of the area, it's 30,000. This is absolutely going to be beneficial to Mai Vang. I wouldn't go on a whim and say that she's going to overtake Metsoy in the first round, but she definitely is going to perform pretty well, and it's going to close the gap a little bit. And I think the Republican is DOA. Like, I don't think he's going to make it to the second round, despite Metsoy spending money to get him there. I think I already went over a little bit the arguments for like why Republicans say fraud happened. Yeah, there's definitely arguments they could make. But like for what it's worth, I mean, it's definitely not real. Oh, Aisha Wahab, she's, my understanding, she's a progressive. That's a pretty good performance for Republicans there, or performance for Republican Democrats, and a bad performance for Republicans there. Randy Velez is the progressive in this race. Well, so Um, the map does show where the ballots are counted. So, I mean, I can show you just California right now. These are the votes left. So, I mean, the majority of the votes left are in California cities or big counties. I mean, Sacramento County, you have 270,000 votes left. San Francisco, you have 136,000. Alameda, 223,000. San Jose, 200,000. And this is like half the ballots. And the demographic of those ballots that remain to be counted are going to be way different. I mean, they could be 30% Steyer. In that case, if they are, 30% Steyer, he would get 25% in the end. I wouldn't bet on that, but I think Steyer is definitely much more likely to do better. Now, Steyer did well in San Francisco, but man, he really didn't do as well in other areas. But this is with the early votes. I mean, the later votes will kind of change how this is going to look. I would go on a whim and say some of these might flip around a little bit. I mean, Alameda. I would say Steyer probably wins Alameda, and that purple turns to blue. But we really won't know. Yeah, for what it's worth, I mean, Becerra really did not run with this election. Um, I don't think it's over for Steyer. It could be, um, but really, he would just have to just for a game of statistics, 50% of the votes in. So if Steyer wins 25% of the remaining 50%, and Becerra only gets 20% of the remaining 50%, Steyer's in the second round. And a lot of the ballots that are still counted are going to be radically different. And we've seen this in the past of races drastically flipping in California. I'm going to be kind of a minority opinion on that. And I think that because I am a minority opinion on that, it's going to just go to Twitter. Everyone, people are referring to Democratic voters as cattle, in California, which is kind of funny actually. People are mad about how Shortcut did. Oh my God, yeah. But for what this is worth, I mean, no, I don't know why I'm not seeing anyone with my perspective. On like Twitter, I bet on Reddit it's just the same. Um, the votes that still need to be counted are going to change. I honestly think it's probably going to be more like Shoykot gets 17% and Chan gets like 24%, which is still horrible for him. But I think that, it's not going to look as bad as oh, wow, 1 in 10 people voted for you. He's going to get more like closer to 2 in 10, but still a pretty abysmal performance for Shoykot. And actually, this is definitely. I'll actually retweet this, because everyone knew that this was going to be a. This is a kind of a mirage election where the first result isn't going to be what the actual result is because how incompetent the Secretary of State in California is, and or how the whole system really is. And I would actually, I mean, my personal opinion is if you're going to count ballots like this, do not release results until several days. Make people mad at you that you can't release results because you're gonna drive people insane with these takes that like, oh, like Steyer only gets 19% of the vote. In the end of the day, it's going to be closer to 22%, and it's going to radically shift everything. I don't know. I mean, it definitely. I could say it 100 times. I already have said it several times. No, definitely, Mark Ahmadinejad did pretty horrible, but I think as more votes come in, he might claw back up there. Um, that's definitely not the right Steve Cohen. Yeah, I don't really need to look at the DSA candidates. Now, another thing. Wow. I will say, Katie Porter. I mean, Matt Mahan, he knew what he was doing. He was like the San Jose mayor. He absolutely didn't need to drop out or whatever. Antonio Vieira Gosa, he was like the LA mayor in the past. Like, this is an absolutely pathetic performance. I mean, he didn't even get 2% of the vote. Tony Thurmond, I mean, no one voted for him. Betty E literally dropped out. Eric Swalwell, he had some pretty disgraceful stuff going on. Let me see how many people voted for Barack Obama Shaw. Because I just think that's funny that he changed his name to Barack Obama. Yep, he got 8,000 votes. I genuinely wonder the people who voted for him there. And I don't have like a lapse for how many votes just got counted in the past hour or so. But I mean, I think it's literally been like 2%. I mean, they like have these pre-counted ballots and then they just show it all up. And then it takes them a week to count the ballots. I don't. The only other state that does it like this is Alaska, which is like, it makes sense there because half the people there live like 100 miles from civilization, and they have to mail them in or like take them on like a husky cart to get the ballots counted. But like, California is like, California isn't like the mountains of Bolivia. Like, most people in California live in a city, and it's ridiculous that we can't get results on election night. I mean, maybe if like 20% of the ballots were mail-in, it would be fine because you'd get 80% of the results and it wouldn't be that different. But I mean, this is half the election. It's like already 10 o'clock. Most people are getting ready for bed. They think they already know what the results are. Man, I mean, this isn't even an election coverage stream. This is just a like California Secretary of State rage bait stream for me, where I just get extremely mad at how slow they count ballots. This is worse than like Nevada in 2020. This is like all of the memes of like the sloth DMV from Zootopia, being like Nevada ballot counters is everything for like the California Secretary of State workers. I honestly, the most important thing is having results. And, like, as you can see, it isn't like one area is slow. It's a systemic issue. So, I mean, some of the rural counties have more ballots in because probably more people just turned out in those counties. But like every county has between 40 to 55% in. No county really has like all the ballots in. And it's because of, you know, you shouldn't, I understand that, not everyone wants to go in person to vote, but you should disincentivize mail-in voting in some capacity and incentivize in-person voting, because this right now is completely unacceptable. I mean, I don't even know how bad turnout is. I mean, let me see. This article, this is pretty impressive because it didn't teach me anything. And they're just saying the participation rate is up, but not by a tremendous amount, but enough to be noticeable. That's pretty bad because, like, you'd expect to be a higher turnout in such like a pivotal year. But um, yeah, like this is true. Like, even when you do an electronic ballot, it prints you out like a real ballot, and I actually think that's a good thing because I think that's a good thing because you can see your verified paper ballot showing all of the options you selected, and if there's any errors, you can get it corrected right away. That's like a good thing. And my understanding is they do count those ballots. No, it's only counted I think they count them manually if there's a need to. So, like, with the election results, oh, you can't correct it once it's printed. Oh, yeah, that's annoying. But if I think if you like, I think if you went to an administrator and said that the machine printed the wrong thing for you, you might be able. They might help you out a little bit. I would predict that. I mean, I don't know the policy for it, but at the very least, you know who you voted for already once you've printed it out. Um, but like, I would say, like, the biggest problem is and I think with election day votes, like with people who come in on election day, when you hand that ballot to the ballot official, they run it through a machine and it counts it. And there is like a small failure rate with the machine counting. So it wouldn't be enough to affect an election unless it was like within 500 votes or something like that. And that's when they hand tally the ballots. If there's like within 500 ballots or 0.05%, and like, they'll hand tally it, and it might be plus 20 votes for one way or minus 20 the other way. It's marginal. It's not like, it's statistically improbable to affect an election. But they do keep the paper copy of everything that comes out. But I just think that the biggest problem now is that so many people are just mailing their ballot on the last day, and you have to wait in the mail for like 4 days for that to be delivered to the vote station, placed into a machine, and then added to the county record results. And if you're like, if you want your voice to be heard, that's just the least effective way to do it, in my opinion. I don't know. I don't really have too much else to cover here, other than I might just do an analysis of it later. But I will say, and don't, I would say it might actually be a good bet to bet on a Steyer or a Rahman, because I think it's a very good chance that they get to the second round. I don't think that it's a guarantee, and I haven't looked at the statistics on it, but they're going to perform a lot better than the result is right here. And Democrats all across the state of California are going to be, another 5-10% over the next 50% of ballots counted. But what I will say is that, we can only wait until, all the ballots are counted to really know the full picture, and we can analyze it from there. But as of right now, every other state is analyzable, very interesting, like I was talking about Iowa earlier. Very different state, Iowa, like 400,000 people, also much more rural. So like a lot of these people could have, mailed in their ballot, but instead chose to drive into whatever city to go in to vote. And, they all did it. I mean, I definitely think California could do it as well, but man, it's very frustrating here. Also, another thing, if you're Secretary of State, I have a pretty good idea. Maybe allow less than 60 people on the ballot so that the average voter isn't intimidated by how many people they have to research. Because if you didn't know anything about who the top candidates were, and you wanted to research each individual candidate, you would drive yourself insane, because half of those candidates don't even have a website. I wonder even how much they had to pay to get on the ballot, or how many signatures they had to gather. In Michigan, getting on the ballot is it's something you have to spend some money on, because you either have to hire canvassers to knock on doors to get your signatures, or you have to, build a team of volunteers to do it without paying. In California, it's you can just, throw anyone. You can throw half these people on this ballot were meme candidates. I mean, let's go down this list. I mean, if don't get me wrong. I mean, there should be more parties and everything, but Peace and Freedom Party, yeah, wow, the Libertarians did pretty horrible. Wow, that's pretty embarrassing for the Libertarian Party there. But I mean, Barack Obama Shaw, what a joke. And then Living for God and Country DeMott. I mean, this guy didn't even get 1,000 votes in a state of 44 million people, but he was on the ballot. I mean, this guy, Serge Fiankin, he got 245 votes. I mean, a lot of the people who voted for him probably thought they were voting for someone else and then accidentally circled him. And then his own family probably didn't even vote for him. I genuinely don't understand. None of this is acceptable. And it's a shame that the Secretary of State was, renominated without controversy, because I am more frustrated about how this election was conducted than I am about any election. I mean, I'm a very, in the know person when it comes to politics. I love following elections. I love following, the races. I don't even care about half of the races that are going on right now, because I just can't believe that the ballots still aren't being counted properly. This is genuinely frustrating. It's not like, obviously it's not fraud, but it's just incompetence. It's more angering than fraud for me, actually, because it's like, at least if you were committing fraud, you would like, it would be like, uh, they might actually have the ballots on election night. But this is just like they're choosing to just punt it out a week. I don't know. I honestly, they should pass the Save Act solely just so it forces a state like California to count their ballots on election day. Just kidding, of course, but oh my god. I mean, like, Florida is a very populous state, and I know they do some things that make it harder for people to vote, and that stuff shouldn't be promoted. But they count their ballots on election day. Texas, same thing, and they have similar turnout rates. I mean, like, let's see, 2024 California turnout rate. 71% of registered voters and 60% of eligible voters. Let's see in Florida. I mean, yeah, more people are voting in Florida, even though they have bigger voter suppression. Now, I do know in California, less people are political because, it's kind of like you already know who's going to win. But I mean, the margin isn't really that different in Florida and the other way around. I mean, it is much more of a competitive state. But like, 60% of eligible voters, it's not like this system is making it more likely for people to vote. I don't know. I would say the biggest thing, I mean, other than like building housing in the state, that's obviously number one priority, but Democrats need to like absolutely reform how elections are done in California. If I were on the state legislature, that would be one of the first things that I'd be, sounding the alarm on, because just make it so that the ballots get counted on election day. Or maybe you have a task force of, 100 poll workers that pick up ballots from ballot boxes on election day and drive them to, and like make it so you can't, or like if you're a postal worker, you have to immediately drop them in a ballot box, and then immediately pick them up from the ballot box and take them directly to the clerks, and then have them all tabulated within 2 days. I mean, that would be doable. I mean, you could absolutely do that. I don't know. I mean, I'm just ranting at the clouds right now, but I'll definitely have much more to say about this. Yeah, I mean, the races themselves, it's anyone's guess who won all these races. But yeah, for now, I'm going to sign out for now. Really nothing about any of the races that I was analyzing earlier has changed at all in the past 2 hours. It makes it like the live analysis aspect of it completely pointless, because like they don't count ballots live. They just feed all the original, early ballots into a tabulator, count them, show a completely inaccurate result that is going to radically change by a week from now. And yeah, no, I just can't keep going on this. I don't know. Biggest loser of the night, Secretary of State of California. And honestly, I hope they get recalled, to be completely honest. I mean, I would give money to a recall after this election just to recall the Secretary of State. The problem is whoever replaces them is going to be probably just as bad. But they gotta change the electoral policy. I mean, you could do that through the legislator and through the governor. If I was running for governor in 4 years, the first issue I would run on is count the ballots on election day, because oh my god, this is just frustrating. With that, I'm gonna stop. Wish everyone thank you for tuning into the stream, I wish I had more results to share or like more positive reaction to the results, but I don't even have results in front of me. I just have, cryptic, hieroglyphs that don't even tell me the result because 50% of the ballots are still out to count with a variety of different, like a radically different demographic is voting in these elections. So with that, yeah, that'll be all for today. And thank you for tuning in to everyone. Now I have to figure out how to end it. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure to stream.